"Mama, please don't leave me here." "Shh, my child, they will hear you." A young woman stood in the darkness, her hands tied behind her back. Her name was Adanna. Tears rolled down her face as she watched her mother walk away slowly into the night. The village elders had spoken. Adanna was the daughter of a witch, and she must be punished for her mother's sins. But Adanna had done nothing wrong. She had never hurt anyone. She had never practiced any dark magic. Yet here she was, tied to a tree in the evil forest, waiting to die. The rope cut into her wrists. Her body shook with fear. Strange sounds came from the bushes around her. Owls hooted. Crickets sang their sad songs. The wind whispered through the leaves like it was telling secrets. Adanna's mother had been accused of witchcraft 3 days ago. The chief's only son had fallen sick suddenly. He could not eat. He could not speak. His body burned with fever. The chief called the village diviner, an old man with white hair and a crooked walking stick. The diviner threw his cowries on the ground. He studied them carefully. Then he pointed his finger at Adanna's mother. "She is the one," he said. "She has put a curse on the boy." Adanna's mother denied it. She cried, she begged, she swore by the gods that she was innocent. But nobody believed her. Fear had already filled their hearts. That same night, angry villagers dragged her from her hut. They beat her, they stripped her clothes, they shaved her head. Then they tied her hands and took her to the village square. "Confess," they shouted, "tell us the truth." But Adanna's mother said nothing. She only looked at the ground, and her lips moving in silent prayer. The chief stood up, his face hard like stone. "If you will not confess," he said slowly, "then your daughter will pay the price." Adanna screamed when she heard those words. "No, please, my mother has done nothing." But her voice was swallowed by the angry crowd. 2 strong men grabbed her arms and dragged her away. Her mother watched helplessly, tears streaming down her face. They brought Adanna to the evil forest, a place where no one dared to go. People said spirits lived there. People said anyone who entered never came back. They tied her to the tallest tree they could find, then they left quickly, not looking back. Now Adanna was alone. The night grew darker. The sounds grew louder. She pulled against the ropes, but they would not break. Her strength was leaving her. Her hope was dying. "Help me," she whispered. "Somebody, please help me." Suddenly she heard footsteps. Slow, careful footsteps. Someone was coming. Her heart beat faster. Was it a spirit? Was it a wild animal? She held her breath and waited. A figure appeared from the shadows. It was a man. He was tall and moved like a hunter. In his hand, he carried a long knife that shined in the moonlight. Adanna's body froze. "Please," she said, her voice shaking, "please don't hurt me." The man came closer. His face was calm, his eyes sharp. He stopped in front of her and studied her for a long moment. "Why are you here?" he asked. His voice was deep but not unkind. They tied me here," Adanna replied, her words tumbling out quickly. "They said my mother is a witch. They said I must be punished." The man tilted his head slightly. "What, is your mother a witch?" "No," Adanna cried. "She is not. She has never harmed anyone." The man was silent. He looked at her hands, tied tightly behind the tree. He looked at her torn wrapper. He looked at her face, wet with tears. Then, without saying another word, he raised his knife. Adanna screamed and closed her eyes, waiting for the pain. But the pain never came. Instead, she felt the ropes fall away from her wrists. She opened her eyes in shock. The man had cut her free. "Go," he said simply, "before they come back." Adanna stared at him, her mouth open. Who are you?" The man did not answer. He turned and began to walk away. "Wait," Adanna called after him. "Please, I have nowhere to go. If I return to the village, they will kill me." The man stopped walking. He stood still for a moment, his back facing her. Then he spoke without turning around. "Follow me," he said, "but do not ask questions." Adanna did not hesitate. She ran after him, her bare feet crunching on dry leaves. They walked deep into the forest, past tall trees and thick bushes. The darkness surrounded them, but the man moved like he could see everything clearly. After what felt like forever, they reached a small clearing. In the middle stood a hut, simple but strong. Smoke rose from a fire burning outside. The smell of roasted yam filled the air. You can stay here tonight, the man said. Tomorrow, you decide what to do. Adanna nodded gratefully. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you so much. The man said nothing. He went inside the hut and brought out a wrapper and some food. Adanna ate hungrily. She had not eaten since morning. As she ate, she watched the man carefully. He sat by the fire, staring into the flames. His face looked tired, like someone carrying a heavy burden. My name is Adanna, she said softly. The man glanced at her. I know, he replied. Adanna's eyes widened. How do you know? The man smiled slightly, a sad smile. Everyone knows the witch's daughter. Adanna's heart sank. Then you also believe my mother is a witch? The man shook his head slowly. I do not believe everything people say. He paused. My name is Obi. Adanna felt something warm inside her chest. For the first time since this nightmare began, someone had shown her kindness. Why do you live here alone? She asked carefully. Obi's face changed. His jaw tightened. Because the same village that rejected you also rejected me. Adanna leaned forward. What do you mean? Obi sighed deeply. 5 years ago, I was the chief's best hunter. I brought meat to every home. I protected the village from wild animals. Everyone respected me. He paused, his eyes distant. Then one day during a hunt, the chief's younger brother came with us. He was careless. He did not listen to my warnings. A leopard attacked him. I tried to save him, but his voice trailed off. He died? Adanna asked gently. Obi nodded. The chief blamed me. He said I let his brother die on purpose. He said I wanted his position. It was a lie, but nobody defended me. They chased me out of the village with stones and insults. Adanna felt tears forming again. I am sorry, she said. Do not be sorry, Obi replied. I have found peace here. They sat in silence for a while, both broken by the same cruel village, and both carrying pain they did not deserve. The next morning, Adanna woke up to the sound of birds singing. The sun was rising, painting the sky with orange and gold. She stepped outside and saw Obi sharpening his knife. Good morning, she said. Morning, Obi replied. You should leave soon. It is not safe for you here. Adanna's face fell. Where will I go? Obi stood up and handed her a small bag. Inside was dried meat and some fruits. Go to the next village. Tell them you are looking for work. Do not mention your mother. Do not mention our village. Start a new life. Adanna took the bag slowly. Her hands trembled. What about my mother? She asked, her voice breaking. I cannot just leave her. Obi's face softened. Your mother would want you to live. If you go back now, you will die. Adanna knew he was right. But her heart refused to accept it. She thought of her mother, alone, suffering, waiting for a daughter who might never return. I have to do something, she said firmly. I cannot just run away. Obi looked at her for a long moment. Something changed in his eyes. Respect, maybe, or recognition. Then we need a plan, he said quietly. Adanna's head shot up. We? Obi nodded slowly. If we are going to save your mother and clear her name, we need proof. We need to find out who really cursed the chief's son. Hope burst inside Adanna's chest like a flame. You will help me. I will help you, Obi confirmed, but it will be dangerous, very dangerous. Adanna straightened her shoulders. I am not afraid. Obi almost smiled. Good, because we start tonight. As the sun climbed higher, Adanna and Obi sat together, planning carefully. And neither of them knew that in the village something strange was happening. The chief's son, who had been sick for days, suddenly opened his eyes. But when he spoke, his voice sounded different. Older, darker. The witch's daughter must return, he said, his eyes glowing strangely, or everyone will suffer. The villagers looked at each other in fear. The chief's face turned pale. The diviner stepped back, his hands shaking. Something evil had awakened, and it wanted Adanna. In the forest, Adanna felt a cold shiver run down her spine. She looked at Obi, who was staring toward the village, with a frown. What is it? She asked. I do not know, Obi replied slowly, but something feels wrong. Dark clouds began to gather in the sky, blocking the sun. The wind picked up, bending the trees. Thunder rumbled in the distance. Oh, Adana stood up, her heart pounding. We need to move fast, she said. Obi nodded. Tonight we find the truth, whatever it takes. As they prepared for the night ahead, neither of them knew that the real enemy was not who they expected. The real witch was closer than they thought, and she had been waiting for this moment for a very long time. Night fell quickly over the forest. The moon hid behind thick clouds, making the darkness even deeper. Obi and Adana moved like shadows through the trees, heading back toward the village. Stay close to me, Obi whispered. Do not make any sound. Adana nodded, her heart beating so loud she was sure everyone could hear it. They reached the edge of the village and hid behind a large palm tree. From there they could see the village square clearly. Something was happening. Torches burned brightly, drums were beating, but not the happy kind. These drums sounded like warnings, like fear. The entire village had gathered in the square. In the center stood Adana's mother. She was on her knees, her hands tied in front of her. Her head was still shaved. Her body was thin and weak. But her eyes, even from this distance, Adana could see they were still strong. Beside her stood the chief, his face twisted with anger. Next to him was his son, the sick boy. But the boy did not look sick anymore. He stood straight, but something about him seemed wrong. His movements were stiff, like a puppet on strings. The old diviner stood before them all, holding his walking stick high in the air. The gods have spoken, the diviner shouted. His voice carried across the square. The witch must confess. Eeyore, her daughter, must be brought back to face judgment. Adana's mother lifted her head slowly. Her voice was weak but clear. I have nothing to confess. I am innocent. The crowd murmured. Some people looked afraid, others looked angry. The chief stepped forward. Enough, he roared. You have brought a curse upon my son. You have brought evil to this village. I have done nothing, Adana's mother replied. Your son's sickness did not come from me. Liar, someone shouted from the crowd. Witch, another voice called out. The diviner raised his stick again. If you will not confess, then we will burn you at dawn. Adana gasped. Her hand flew to her mouth. Obi grabbed her arm tightly, holding her back. Wait, he whispered urgently. Not yet. We need to be smart. Tears rolled down Adana's face as she watched her mother being dragged away by the guards. They took her to a small hut at the far end of the village and locked her inside. We have to save her now, Adana said desperately. Obi shook his head. If we try now, they will catch us both. We need to find proof first. Proof of what? Adana asked, frustration building in her voice. Proof of who really cursed the chief's son, Obi replied. He pointed toward the diviner, who was now walking away from the square with the chief. That old man knows something. I can feel it. Adana wiped her tears. What do we do? We follow him, Obi said, quietly. They moved through the shadows, keeping their distance as the diviner walked through the village. He did not go to his own hut. Instead, he headed toward the chief's compound. Obi and Adana hid behind a mud wall, watching carefully. The diviner entered the chief's main hut. Through the small window, they could hear voices. Are you sure this will work? It was the chief's voice, sounding worried. Trust me, the diviner replied. His voice was calm, almost pleased. By tomorrow the witch will be dead, and no one will question us. Adana's eyes widened. Obi leaned closer, listening intently. But what about my son? The chief asked. He still speaks strangely. He still does not eat properly. The diviner laughed, a cold sound. Your son will be fine once I have what I want. And what is that? The chief asked. There was a pause. Then the diviner spoke again, his voice dropping lower. The land that belongs to the witch's family. Once she is dead, her property becomes yours, and you will give me my share as we agreed. Adana felt like she had been struck by lightning. Her mouth fell open. Obi's jaw clenched tight. So you lied? The chief asked slowly. She is not really a witch? Of course she is not, the diviner said casually, but people believe what they want to believe. Fear is a powerful tool, my friend. Then what is wrong with my son? The chief demanded. The diviner chuckled. Nothing that a little herb in his food cannot cause. I have been putting it in his meals for weeks, small amounts. Enough to make him sick, but not enough to kill him. The chief's voice rose. You poisoned my son? Calm down, the diviner said quickly. I will stop giving him the herb. In a few days, he will be normal again. Everyone will think the witch's death broke the curse. You will be a hero. I will be a powerful diviner. We both win. There was silence. Then the chief spoke, his voice hard. You better be right, old man. If anything happens to my son— Nothing will happen, the diviner interrupted. Just make sure the witch burns tomorrow. Everything else will fall into place. Adana could not believe what she was hearing. Her whole body shook with anger. Obi put a gentle hand on her shoulder. We have our proof, he whispered. Now we need witnesses. Who will believe us? Adana asked bitterly. They already think my mother is evil. Obi thought for a moment, then his eyes lit up. The chief's wife, he said. She has always been kind. She never believed your mother was a witch. How do you know? Adana asked. Because she told me once, long ago before they chased me away, Obi replied. She is a good woman trapped in a marriage with a greedy man. Where is she now? Adana asked. Obi pointed to a smaller hut on the other side of the compound. There, but we must be very careful. They moved slowly, staying in the shadows. When they reached the hut, Obi knocked softly on the wooden door. A woman's voice came from inside. Who is there? A friend, Obi whispered. Please, we need your help. The door opened slightly. A woman's face appeared. She was beautiful, with kind eyes and a gentle expression. When she saw Obi, her eyes widened. Obi, she whispered, is that really you? Yes, my lady, Obi replied, bowing slightly. The woman looked around nervously, then opened the door wider. Come inside quickly, before someone sees you. Obi and Adana entered the small hut. It was simple but clean. The woman closed the door and turned to face them. Her eyes fell on Adana. You are the witch's daughter, she said softly. Adana nodded. Yes, but my mother is not a witch. The woman sighed. I know, she said. I have always known. Adana felt hope rise in her chest. Then why did you not speak up? The woman looked down at her hands. Because I am just a woman. No one listens to me. My husband does what he wants. The diviner controls everything. We heard them talking, Obi said urgently. The diviner poisoned your son. He and the chief planned everything to steal Adana's mother's land. The woman's hand flew to her mouth. My son, she gasped. That evil man poisoned my son. Yes, Adana said, and tomorrow they plan to burn my mother. You are the only one who can stop this. The woman paced back and forth, her mind working quickly. If I accuse my husband publicly, he will deny it. The diviner will deny it. I have no proof. We heard them, Obi insisted. Your word against theirs, the woman replied sadly. They will not believe you. Adana felt despair creeping back. Then what do we do? The woman stopped pacing. Her eyes became sharp, determined. We make them confess, in front of everyone. How? Obi asked. The woman smiled slightly. The diviner is greedy. He loves money more than anything. If we can trick him into confessing before the village, they will have to believe us. But how do we trick him? Adana asked. The woman thought carefully. Tomorrow morning, before the burning, there will be a final gathering. That is when they will give my mother-in-law's people a chance to speak, to beg for mercy. That is when we will act. She looked at both of them seriously. I will need you both to trust me, and I will need you to be brave. Obi and Adana nodded together. Tell us what to do, Adana said firmly. The woman leaned closer and began to explain her plan. As she spoke, Adana felt something growing inside her. Not just hope, but power. The power to fight back, the power to save her mother. Outside, the night continued. The village slept, unaware of the storm that was coming. In her locked hut, Adana's mother prayed silently, not knowing that her daughter was closer than she thought. And in the chief's main hut, the diviner and the chief drank palm wine, celebrating their wicked plan, not knowing that their secrets had been discovered. Tomorrow would bring fire, tomorrow would bring truth, tomorrow everything would change. To be continued. Will Adana and Obi's plan work? Will the diviner confess his crimes? Will Adana's mother be saved before the flames take her? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Like, share and subscribe so you don't miss the final part of this story.